Oh, Noel, we spoke about obviously quite a few of your successes. We're going to discuss a few more now. But when did you actually start bowling? Can you remember that far back?
I don't actually remember it, no, but I've still got a photograph of me aged about 3 years old with a little peak cap and leggings on. I'm playing on my father's, at the back of my father's pub, the Red Lion in Withington,
Yeah.
in Bowling Green there.
Yeah. I think you'll always be associated with the Red Lion, won't you?
Yeah, probably, even though I've been left there for 25 years now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And who got you involved in the game then? Was your
Well,
father?
my father did, yeah. In fact, he won the Lancashire Merit in 1959. And then I won it 9 years later, and apparently we were the second father and son that had both won Lancashire Merits.
Yeah.
I think the others were a gentleman called Billy Parr from St Helens and his father. I mean, God knows how many years ago that was, but some time ago.
And I suppose that you was reared on the Red Lion, I presume?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, the Red Lion had some fantastic bowlers there. I mean, in those days, obviously, people didn't travel about quite the same, but these guys there, they actually took on the Lancashire team. I don't know what the occasion was particularly, but I've still got the scorecard somewhere. I think it was 1951, and they took on the Lancashire team and beat them. And the Lancashire team had all the hot pots of the time, and but the Red Lion members were brilliant with me. If they weren't made up in what we used to call a forehand of an afternoon, the odd one, they'd come and play with me during the school holidays, and I learned so much. You know, they just went out of the way to teach me. It's really nice. I don't know whether it's because I was the landlord's son, but
after a few free points, you think, teaching you a little bit, yeah.
Well, I remember Eric Rhodes was once, that I've mentioned before, was once in the final of the competition that was being run on the Red Lion, and he asked who would teach him most about the green. They got me out of the pub, aged about 12 years old, because I didn't teach you the best about the green. And he looked rather, bemused, but sure enough, I showed him all over the green, and obviously, unfortunately, Eric's not around anymore, but we actually became pretty good friends after that.
Yeah. I mean, obviously you've been playing for some 50 years now, you know. And
60.
60. I was trying to be kind to you then.
Yeah.
Have you, and you've obviously in that period seen obviously a lot of the all-time greats. You mentioned, what was it, obviously the great win in Lancashire Merit beating Billy Dorr, but I know when I spoke to people like Ryan, Duncan and so on, they've always felt that Billy was one of the greatest bowlers of all time.
Well, he was just absolutely dedicated. I played him once in a 41 up competition, and I never had a ball more than 2 feet away from the jack, but I lost 41-23. In the pub afterwards, he bought me a drink, and then he said to his son, who used to drive him around anywhere, he said, "Come on, we've just got time, half an hour to play to another place just down the road. Just have half an hour's practice," because he was playing there the night after. So he played a 41 up against me, then went off somewhere else practicing.
Who else do you find you admire in the game who's perhaps been toughest opponent?
Well, Brian Duncan, obviously. We've had some great skirmishes over the past. Stan Frith, there again, great games with Stan. Arthur Murray, even Arthur West as well, as I say. But Arthur's obviously past his best now, even though he's still managed to get to where he has this last week.
Yeah. And I mean, you've obviously played these sort of all-time greats, and now you're coming across the latest crop of top players like Gary and Graham Wilson, people like that.
Well, that's right. Yeah. I mean, I don't really think there's much to split between the two of them at the moment. Graham Wilson had a fabulous year last year, and then Gary Ellis is doing it this year. So they're the two top ones at the moment.
Now, do you think, I mean, it's hard for you to say, do you think the top players these days compared to the top guys when
I would say so, yes. I mean, obviously it's a different generation. There's different balls being used now. Well, skill-wise, yeah, I would definitely rate Gary Ellis and Graham Wilson up at the top. One of the great attributes they both have is that they're very good at firing at heads. Whereas maybe that was not done quite as much years ago.
Yeah, yeah. As I say, I mean, you I think going back, I remember I spoke to one or two people like Arthur Murray in the past and Roy Armstrong, and they just felt there's perhaps slightly more at the top level going back to perhaps the 70s or 80s.
Exactly, yeah. I would say there were more people. You could probably bracket about 20 or 25 players that in a competition that would have a realistic chance of winning that competition, whereas it's probably, I mean, if you've got Graham Wilson, Gary Ellis in the field on the final day, you're going to say one of them is more than likely going to win it.
Yeah, we'll go very close.
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
right. Okay, I mean, we haven't spoken much yet about the Waterloo achievements. I mean, you won the Waterloo twice.
Yeah.
And the first time was when 1972.
Correct, yeah.
And then you came along, what?
2004.
2004.
Yeah.
Some 32 years later.
Well, I've been joking that if I win it the third time and leave the same time span, I'll be 92 when I win it the next time.
Okay. Well, what year will that be then, Noel? Because I might make sure I get £1 or £2 on you that year then.
I don't know. 2036, I think.
Do they allow mobility scooters on the green, do they?
Yeah, well, yeah, that's another story, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, that again, I mean, it shows tremendous ability to be able to show that consistency over such a long period of time, isn't it?
Well, I think you find if you're going to win something, things, apart from the skill factor, things just go your way. I mean, the Cheshire Merit a week or so ago, I just scraped through my first round, 21-20, and at 18 all, my opponent knocked me in for shot. Well, if it had been the other way around, he'd have been leading the jack at 19-18 instead of me. And 21-20, so you look back on those and think, that was just my day.
Yeah. Sometimes you need that little stroke of luck.
Oh, you've got to have I always reckon that bowls is probably 90% skill and you've got 10% of luck. There'll be times when you're trying to play your opponent's ball out and you'll miss by a whisker, and another day you'll play it out.
Well, with the Waterloos, I mean, after those two, in 76 and 2004, which sort of gave you the most pride, if you like?
The first one, I'll never forget. My father was still alive then, and at the last end, when I'd obviously won, there was a fellow from the Lloyds in Charlton, John Riley, came running on the green, picked me up and swung me round, and put me down, and I looked up, and there was my father in the stand with his trilby hat on, and he was as proud as punch, because he'd been trained for 40 years to win the Waterloo and never got past the last 32. He was very, very pleased, very proud man.
Yeah, I can understand that. To have your father watching it at that point.
Yeah, so that's that was a special moment. I think the second time it was a difficult one because I played Jeff Telford in the final, and Jeff was possibly not going to carry on in the competition because his wife had died about 5 days earlier. And his family had convinced him that she would have wanted him to carry on. And he got to the final, and I played him in the final. That was difficult. Very, very difficult, and I didn't feel like celebrating too much at that time.
But it's a good achievement of Jeff's as well.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
It was. Okay. We'll just have another short break, and we're back again with Noel shortly.